this microphone, so first of all, thank you for coming, because I know that now we have a lot of interesting speeches, and also after yesterday evening, it's also very complicated to come. So thank you all of you. So let's start. A little bit about me. My name is Hanna. I'm a QA engineer in Autodesk Tel Aviv office. Here you can find my contacts for future. Okay. Yeah. It's a little bit about our office, about some meetups and stuff which we have. And let's start about problem and how can we work with this problem. How often do you have questions about like what to check, what real users want from your application, what's really matter or what's not matter? I hope that you have this question, because I think that sometimes it comes, and we need to figure out where to find answer for this. So in my case, I prefer to use analytics tools for answering for some questions. And in this case, I prefer to separate two types of analytics. It's user perspective and its technical side. What does it mean? In general, it means that user perspective, we can gather some data about our users, for example, what they can do in our application, what they prefer to do, on which devices they prefer to do it, on which browsers, and so on. On technical side, it's information about which crashes happens, which problems happens, maybe internet problems, maybe some other problematic questions which sometimes we cannot get in our test environments, but it's very nice to know, sometimes even before real feedbacks from customers. So today I want to talk about Mixpanel. From previous slide you can see that it's related to user perspective. So in general, this tool can provide you so many solutions and features. I don't work there. It's just what they have in their website. And really, I don't use all of these features because I think it's like too much, and I just use what I think more popular and more useful for QA perspective. So let's start from examples and from questions which we can solve by this tool. First of all, we can talk about how to create and how to start to think about analytics, how to create data for analytics, and what does it mean? We cannot say that, okay, I want to receive, like, when user do something, like, give me anything about it. No, we need to create PRD. In our project, it works for product owner, or it's also together with developers and with QA team, because we need to know if we can get this data or not. So the main points on our side, it's events. Events, it calls about activity. For example, session start when user open application, or when user edits something, or when user creates something. Any activity or action from user, we call it event. For every event, we can provide parameters, what we want to get. For example, in some cases, we want to know which model of device, or which browser, or which internet connection, Wi-Fi, offline, 3G, 4G. We just need to understand, so we can get all these parameters. We just need to know what is important for every event. And also we need to understand which real action will trigger this event. It means that, for example, session start, what will be like, it means that user login, for us it's relevant, or it means that user just open application from background, and we want to know how often user do it. A small example. I know my colleagues say that it's a little bit complicated to understand because it's a little bit small. I hope you will see it, and I hope it will be understandable. So let's try to see one of the examples. It's a feature called, interesting if I can do points there, but okay. So, for example, if we want to do some actions with a checklist. In our application, users can create checklist and after this can run it. It means that user can create it the same as on a QA side. I want to do this and this and this. If it works, doesn't work. If it doesn't work, create issue or some points like notes about it, all this stuff. So by our PRD, it's a little bit changed because of legacy and all this stuff. So for example, for view checklist, trigger for us, when user view checklist, it means that when user open a special checklist, we receive callback to Mixpanel, and we can see that user open specific checklist. And together with this data, we can receive checklist status. For example, if it's not started, it means that user just opened it for the first time. If it's in progress or if it's completed. Also, we can see assignee, to whom assigned this checklist, and we can see number of items attachments. If we already have any attachments for this checklist, we had some problematic situation with attachments, so we decided also include this part to be sure that user receive it as expected, because we had some situation when some of the attachments was lost, and it was very complicated to debug it. So it's a way how it can be automatically gathered for us. When we create checklist, we can see that we receive create checklist only when checklist created successfully. It means that if it's failed, we don't receive this data. And also you can see all the parameters which we think is important for this specific action. It means that we need to know which type of checklist we have, how many sections, how many items we have, to whom it's assigned, but not a personality or role. It's just if this specific checklist assigned to someone or not. And also we can see a number of signatures. It's one of the latest features for us. It means that for completing this checklist, we need to sign this checklist. So a person who is responsible needs to sign it. Also, we can see for complete checklist all the data, and for delete signed signature. So what's next? Also we have, as you can see, notes. It means that we can provide some notes, what is important for this specific action or for this specific parameter. As you can see here, for example, it should be uppercase. We need to be sure that all the parameters and all the data which we send to Mixpanel should be uppercase. From technical side, it's sometimes important from the beginning not to create data which will be different because of a capital letter or not. And also we have statuses from development implementation. In general, we also provide information when we integrated these changes. It means that in which release or in which version this specific feature was added to our application, and we have it from Mixpanel. And the same from QA. It means that developers can write when they implemented it, and we can write when we checked it. And if something is updated, so we just add information that it was implemented at this specific version, and it was updated in some other versions. Any questions? Okay, so let's try to see what we can do with this data, because we have a lot of data which we can gather from users. So we need to understand how we can provide maybe some business value to our product, maybe some help to our stakeholders, to clients. So let's start from, I think the most painful situation for QA. Someone here works with mobile, maybe with Android. Okay, so we know that there are a lot of devices which we have for mobile, and sometimes it's very problematic to understand what to check and on which devices to check. What I started to use in our company, it's creation by create a filter with information which is interesting for me. For example, I did session start. It can be total or it can be unique. It's by your choice how you want. Also, I can choose by platform what I want to know. It's also related to web browsers, okay? You can understand which web browser is more popular for your users. And people properties, it means that we can see Android model. We can choose if it's employee or not employee. You can create a list of accounts which related to your QA site, so you don't need to check them and to have information about them when you want to clear data. And of course, you can check by which time you want this data. In our site, sometimes we use it for big customers. For example, we want to order a new device, and we can see that some popular devices we already have, but we want to check the main customer, which devices they can use and which devices they prefer to use. So by this case, we can also add one of the points to this filter. It's related to company, and we can see specific top devices for this company. And in this case, you will be sure that you you have your top priority customer, and you can check and you can be sure that on devices which this customer use, everything will be okay. Like, not everything, but we will hope that it will be everything. On our site, sorry for, I cannot provide more detailed data, but in general, you can receive these reports, this kind of reports in Mixpanel. So here you can see a model of the devices. You can see how many devices, active devices do you have with these models. And in this case, you can see what is top priority, what is not top priority. And as you can see, it's like here it's filtered out by Android. But also you can check by browsers or by iOS or Microsoft, whatever. For me, it's very helpful tool also for automation, because when you're responsible for automation, you need to understand what to automate, or what to automate from the beginning, because when you don't have a lot of time, in general, you don't have a lot of time for everything. When you need to automate, and automate everything, it's impossible, we know it. So we need to understand what can we cover. For example, what can we cover also for smoke tests. In my case, I start to use top events. It's automatic filter in this tool. And I can choose by which time. So after this, I can see top events of users, and I can know that, okay, these specific features, it's more relevant for customers because they use it most of the time. And because of it, I need to be sure that every release, every deployment, this specific feature should work. Like whatever, but this should work. Just because from the beginning, customers will start to use these specific features. So it helps a lot also provide information to managers when we have a question why, for example, I don't automate some stuff and I spend time for automation some maybe small features. I can provide this information, say that as we can see, here it's more relevant for our customer and it's more relevant for our for sure for our business, because we need to be sure that more relevant features will work for our customers. Also, it can help you with understanding user struggles. In some cases, users prefer to send feedback, sometimes bad, sometimes good, most of the times bad feedbacks, specifically for Android devices. Because you have a question, and I don't know, but sometimes I think that in iOS, people, I use iOS, so maybe it's also regarding to me, more lazy to provide feedbacks in any case. Even if it's good or even if it's bad, it's sometimes more lazy. So here you can filter out by users' data and see what we can take from this, and find all the information which user did, all the actions. Also, after releasing, we need to see what actually happens with our feature. Like, we did a release, and after this, is it relevant for users? Do they need it? Do they start to use anything? So it's more useful for us to understand that, also it's more nice for us to know that what we did, it's relevant for user, and they start to use it. They understood that they have new features, understood what to do with this. So in these cases, you can see if it works or not. Of course, we had situation when we had some bugs with Mixpanel, and just we didn't have any event just because of bugs on our side. But most of the time, it can be also very helpful. Any questions?
Okay, thank you so much for your presentation. And the most important, what's the profit, and how you increase time to market for your product?
Can you please repeat?
Real profit to your product, maybe increase time to market.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. It's a great question. So what happens for us and how it helps to us? First of all, it helps us to understand some real customer problems even before customers start to talk to us. We try to be a client-oriented business, so for us it's very important. Also, we can see on which markets it's more relevant, and like our applications start to grow or not. And from QA side, from QA perspective, we can provide some value by getting data and explaining in the same level, the same language as product or customer talks. For example, we can provide information about why we're using this specific feature, or why we're developing this specific feature and not something else, or why we can use these specific devices or browsers, why we check first of all on these specific cases and why not. So from QA side, it's most of all I think it's helpful in this case.
Okay, thank you.
All right. How do you classify users? For example, you might have a minority of some enterprise users with top scale machines, and a majority of users which actually are not so valuable to you. Or you just collecting the data about how many users do you have overall?
Thank you for the question. First of all, we collect data about users. We provide information about it in the app. How we can classify? First of all, of course, we have like some customers which are more global, and they're like top market player in some areas. And also, when we receive some problems from that customers, for us it's more like it's very important to fix it at the same moment. From other side, we don't have some kind of classification in general for every user. Most of the time it's related to areas like, for example, North America, Latin America, Europe, Asia. And by companies, so we have like different type of classification.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, it seems to me that we are out of time right now. Maybe you have something to finish?
Yeah, so let's summarize what we have today and which information we received today. So first of all, I try to explain your importance of analytics and why I think that it's very helpful and it's very nice to have these tools during your daily basis work. Also, we talked about types of gathering data. We talked about clients more personal perspective, and we talked about technical side. So in one of the slides you can see features which related to for these specific tools. We talked about a mixed panel, about features and about some key points which they can provide for us. And we talked about examples and cases about help which can provide mixed panel to your job from different points of view, from automation, from business value, and from work with customers. Thank you.